All right, thanks for tuning in and subscribing to this brand new channel. It's called the Neocon Job. We look at what neocons are doing, John Bolton and his Monroe Doctrine. Oh, jeez. Unbelievable. Unbelievable that we would say we're not afraid to talk about. I mean, you can't get more neocon, and you can't be more abusive to the Monroe Doctrine than to just say, hey, we're going to use the Monroe Doctrine in Venezuela. It's not even the way the Monroe Doctrine was like originally talked about, but that's another video. I just started blabbing about that. I appreciate the subscribers. Tulsi Gabbard is not getting nearly the exposure that she needs in order to get the donors. I mean, she every time her email stuff sends me a text, I click on yes, I donate. I've done, and I've not donated, I think, in my lifetime to a Democrat candidate. And there's no wave of activity out there among Trump supporters, by the way, which I would consider myself I do support some of the stuff that he's doing still, but here's my big problem is that it's a long-term issue if we don't get the military spending and the interventions under control. I mean, if you're on the left, what do? You pump cash into the economy like Barack Obama did. You just keep printing money. The money becomes less valuable, but more people have it, and so they can kind of, slide by. If you're Trump, you cut taxes, you try to let some of that money trickle down. That works for a while as well. People get jobs, companies start hiring. That works for a while, okay? It's not sustainable because the government hasn't decided that it's going to tighten its belt. And the best way they can tighten their belt is to stop these regime change wars that Tulsi Gabbard has been talking about. I don't know a more effective way. Where else can you pick up $1 trillion? If you want to raise money for any kind of program that you want to pay for, and people collectively agree and say this would be a good idea to help people who, for instance, don't have health insurance. Again, I don't know about Medicare for all. I keep hearing it from the left. It's one of their big things. On the right, I think they'd rather just keep the current system. I would like a system that works, and maybe a system where there was a safety net or a hybrid system. I get it. We are already kind of using some socialism, and people point this out to me all the time that yes, Social Security, the word social is in there. Social Security is kind of like socialism. Medicare, the current Medicare system is kind of like socialism. Medicaid in a lot of states, like I live in Florida, it's kind of like socialism, and what happens is a Republican will take office and say, hey, I can manage this program better, but they don't get rid of it. They don't say, okay, you're off, we're just going to eliminate Medicaid. They know that would be a disaster because there are some people who need it and use it. Private health insurance is typically better, and if you have a good job that provides the insurance, that's the best way, but not everybody can do that. So I get that. So with all those arguments aside for a moment, like I say in pretty much every video I've done, and maybe I'm getting redundant, is that if we had a few $1 trillion to mess around with, I could say, okay, do a pilot program and see if it works and see how much it costs, and implement it and try it. If it doesn't work, then ditch it. A lot of these countries over in Europe had all these programs that they had to kind of change and adjust and privatize or do a hybrid or something. We're never going to make any progress, though, if we're constantly running around the world telling, hey, Venezuela, you need to put this guy in and take this guy out, and we're going to help you. And how much money is that costing us each minute that we're there? I mean, it's got to be ridiculous. And anywhere else where we're still conducting operations, it's just sad. But I'm more upset that this idea that Tulsi Gabbard has, this message, I read everywhere, this message should be popular with everybody. But guess what? The media doesn't like the message. I did this one video called All Media Despises Tulsi Gabbard, and it's clear that they would like to avoid her because every time she goes on a show, and by the way, she was on with Tucker Carlson, it was like the best thing. If you're kind of coming from a left perspective and you hate Tucker Carlson, watch the video. Tucker is one of those guys that I think has a fair amount of intellectual curiosity, and he wants to know why everybody is kind of rejecting Tulsi. And I think he's probably more libertarian when it comes to foreign interventions and so forth. I think he looks at it and says, why? Why are we doing this again? And that message, by the way, that message can work with the old-time peaceniks in the Democrat Party and some of the more libertarian-minded Republicans that are currently around, like the Rand Pauls of the world. And you could easily build a coalition and win the election. And then you can tell people on the left that, hey, we'll have money. We might be able to actually implement these programs without taxing you to smithereens, because that's what we would have to do. And then you could tell those on the right, hey, you know, more money comes back home, more money in your pocket. You know, again, the government gets a lot of taxes from us, and it seems like most of it goes to fighting wars that none of us ever approved of, including Congress, by the way. Congress hasn't declared a war in Syria. Congress hasn't declared a military operation in Venezuela. And Congress, they're supposed to be the ones with the purse strings. And I don't know how that's been working. It hasn't been working so well lately. And that's with all of these presidents going back at least to Bush and Clinton, but mostly from 2000 forward, we've seen just this reckless behavior of the presidency where, hey, I'm just going to do what I want to do, and if you don't like it, you know, tough toenails, I'm doing it anyway. And that's not how the branches of government are supposed to interact. Okay, done with this video. The big takeaway from this video is it's going to get really nasty, and Tulsi Gabbard needs to get a seat at the table because if her message is heard, it's going to catch on like wildfire. And she's going to pull some people like myself from a more right perspective, and people who are still kind of patriotic and love the country, who are Democrats. Those people, I think, will come on board because Tulsi also represents a lot of things that they are for. We'll see how this pans out. So far, not looking so good. I know it's early, but it's discouraging. All right, see you soon.